This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to #ad. This is the podcast where we discuss everything influencer marketing related. We talk tips to help assist you in your influencer journeys and so much more. I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's influencer coordinator. And I'm joined today with a very special guest, Craig Campbell. Hi, Craig. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Daniela. Thanks for having me on.
We're very excited to have you on the podcast today. So for starters, for anybody who doesn't know about you, who wants to get to know you or about what you do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your social media presence?
Yeah, so my name's Craig Campbell. I am from Scotland, as you'll probably recognise from the accent. It was really hard to understand. And I've been in the digital marketing space for 22 years and mainly as an SEO expert. But in recent years, I've kind of built a personal brand and built a YouTube channel and done various other things because just things evolve and and obviously building a personal brand, got to do stuff in social media and speaking at conferences and everything else followed on from that. So I kind of do that and I'm an SEO at heart, but I utilize SEO for my own businesses now. I don't really do client work or anything like that. So I do a lot of training, consultancy, and just run my own online businesses.
Okay. So you obviously focus mostly on SEO, right? What made you want to focus your digital marketing on SEO? I think we see a lot of people who do a lot of social media mostly. Graphic design, I think, has a really big video, short form video. They're very popular right now. Um, but I think we see a much smaller number of creators who focus on SEO. What made you want to focus on that part?
Um, it was just timing, really. I got into this industry in 2001. Um, and I didn't really set out to be an SEO as such. Actually set out to be a web designer, and I wasn't very good at it. Graphically, I found myself struggling to get my head around graphics and stuff. And I ended up moving over towards SEO because I just found it more comfortable for my personal skill level. And that side of things wasn't really big at the time. So I just went down a rabbit hole and then never really came back out of it. You just, you get deep into it and you just end up making money. I ended up owning an agency, had staff, and I'm just like, whoa, Jesus, that was a hell of a rabbit hole to go down into. And as I say, you build a bit of a passion for it, and you go, right, I'll stick with this. This seems to be
I think.
my thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously you learn along the way, to do other things such as social media. Social media is a big part of my online presence now and stuff. So, doing reels and shorts and, putting content out there is obviously a big part of it as well. So I have I'm not going to claim to be an expert in graphics still, but, tools and stuff are a lot easier now to use as well. You've got Canva and all these kind of amazing tools, and even Opus Clip and things like that, to make shorts from podcasts and stuff. So I can actually look not bad now um, on social media with the lack of skills that I have.
That's actually really interesting what you said. There are so many more tools for so many things. And I think like you said, Canva is a huge thing for like DIY graphic design, which wasn't a thing in the past. I think when I was like in high school, I remember when we had to like do things that were somewhat presentable, we would do them on like Microsoft PowerPoint to the best of our abilities, and like high school kids nowadays are giving you really, really pretty presentations of things. So it is true that in a way, a lot of that has become accessible. But I think what you do is a very important aspect of it that I think people don't really take into account because a lot of times the focus is on the aesthetic side, right? Like on the image and all of that. Um, when it comes to giving advice on SEO and, just all of this, why did you decide to put it out on the internet? I know you sort of found yourself working in this industry, but why did you decide to actually make content and talk to people about it and give people advice and tutorials and all of this?
Uh, it was more, it was kind of luck, to be honest. I started to do training courses and stuff like that, probably 15 years into my career. I just felt I was at a point where I could help other people. And from there, I found that I quite enjoyed the sense of giving back and helping others to get to where I got to quicker than I did, because I've made lots of mistakes. So I think in terms of talking and stuff like that, I initially started doing webinars with SEMrush uh, back uh, back in the day, and from that became opportunities to speak at industry conferences, and then COVID hit. So I was doing really well with what I was doing, and then COVID hit, and conferences were no longer a thing for a few years. And I really doubled down on YouTube at that point, um, because I still wanted to talk to people and still wanted to help people. So I've done YouTube and probably became a lot bigger in social media over that period of time as well, because I had a lot of content to put out. And I yeah, I think one, I just felt I was at a right point in my career, but two, just the opportunities that landed on me just kind of led me down that path. And I've get a lot of people saying why, speaking and I know people are scared to sometimes put their face out there on YouTube or speaking at conferences and stuff like that. But the reality is, if you don't put your face out there, someone else will, and they're going to run away with all the money. So, I think you have to put your face out there and you have to do these things. Obviously, Penji are doing podcasts and it's all good to give back, but it's also exposure, it's brand building, building trust with people out there and helping your community and there's so many other little things that go on to that. And yeah, I wanted to build a brand. I wanted to build a community, and yes, I'm able to monetize that too. So at the end of the day, in my head, I was going, if these guys are doing it and they can make money doing that, I want a show
I
off.
do too, yeah.
Why am I not on there? And that's just the nature of guy that I am. I was never comfortable speaking publicly or anything. I'll never say that, it's easy to go on there. I've had the dry throat and the sweats and everything. I was really out with my comfort zone, but I think, in my head, it just felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, what you said about getting yourself out there is very important. I think if you don't put yourself out there, you're not gonna see results, even if they're good or bad, right? And from the viewers that we have, I think a lot of people who want to start working on their social media presence, their marketing for their own businesses, they struggle with that aspect of putting themselves in that position where, even if you're putting out something ridiculous, you're learning from that experience, right? Um,
It's scary. When I first started doing it, with Sen Rush, there was a guy there who organised the podcasts. And I used to do it, and I'm just going to give this story because a lot of people will probably be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the guy used to hammer me, he'd be like, Craig, after that you do your talk and you talk well and everything else. And then the guy would come in and he'd say, Craig, your camera's shit, your lighting's shit, you done this wrong, you've done that wrong. And he absolutely hammered me for like 3 months. Everything I'd done was shit, but it brought me up to a certain level. I had a certain level of camera, I had a certain level of lighting, and it was a lot more professional looking. So at the start, I was just like, this guy is really fucking harsh. I, and all he really wanted to do was try and make me better. I'm sitting, with a crap light and no light, and it looks like a silhouette sitting there. And when I look and think back, you're just like, what are you doing? So, I think these little pointers help you get better and better and better. And it does become easier to do it. And as I say, it's I'm here now and I do lots of podcasts, lots of speaking events, and I needed to take the guidance of someone who was doing it on a regular basis, even though I didn't like what he was saying to me. It helped me massively.
yeah, and your channel is actually really, really famous. Like, you're not a small channel.
Yeah.
Mm. Because I think I've spoken to a lot of different people who have had very, like, very stable growth, small growth, people who are still in that process of growing through social media. How did you reach, or how did that happen where, your content sort of reached 1 million followers, which is like a huge number?
Yeah, I think for me, when COVID hit, I gave away a free online course and I had 50,000 people sign up overnight. But part of that, I was trying to funnel people for the last part of the course over to my YouTube. So I was able to get decent traction. One, because it was COVID and people were hungry for information, but two, I utilized giving away a free course. And from there, I think, I think I've got 12 or 1,300 videos on there. I do 2 live streams a week. I've got a live stream in like 45 minutes where we do Q&A sessions, and I've done a lot of paid ads and stuff like that as well to do it. So it certainly wasn't easy. I utilized, promoting me on other people's channels um, as well. And why not? It's perfectly, if I want to be on Matt Diggity's channel, for example, can I have my ad on there? Of course I can. So when people are finished watching Matt Diggity, can they come over and learn something from me? Of course they can. And I think, leveraging all of that and actually spending time, effort, and money in terms of doing that was massive. And I think a lot of people say, that's ridiculous and all that kind of stuff. But if you really want to do it and do things on YouTube, you can get exponential growth, and you can utilize paid as well as giving value away for free. And that is basically what I've done to get that level of growth. And I'll continue to do that. Now, I feel SEO is a very, very niche market. And I feel now I'm at a stage where I'm kind of limited. I've done what I can in terms of exposure in the SEO world. So even on my own podcast now, I'm actually having to get guests that are from business, finance. I don't want to just talk about SEO. So how do I get from, say, 1 million to 2 million? I could wait another 40 years just talking about SEO, or I can get a broader audience, by talking about other things relating to marketing, including the business side of things, and stuff that people in marketing will enjoy. So I'm actually, broadening the audience slightly by having other guests on, not just specifically relating to SEO. And hopefully that gets me a bit more growth again. But you're always just thinking of ways and opportunities to grow that. And I think being able to achieve 1 million is a great feat in an SEO space. But how do I get to 2 million? And I think the only way I can really do that is broaden the horizons and get bigger and better guests on there. And I've actually got 2 really big guests lined up over the next few weeks. Like these guys are famous. So that's the next step for me. You've got to leverage other people's following and stuff like that to get growth, and you have to have good conversations with people. Everyone's doing podcasts, everyone's doing YouTube. How do you differentiate yourself from the rest? You have to do something different. You have to stand out from the crowd, whether that be asking better questions, being funnier, being controversial, whatever. You just have to add something else into the mix.
It's interesting because what you said about sort of branching out of SEO is very interesting. It's very similar to Penji's journey, where we obviously, what we do is graphic design. We're graphic designers and we can do all kinds of graphic design, right? But we don't do SEO. We don't do video. We focus strictly on the graphic design aspect. And like you said, whilst that is great, we also want to branch out and talk about other things. And when a person comes looking for help with something like that, they probably need help with the other things, right? So for the most part, I assume that most people that want your advice on SEO also want to learn about graphic design, or people who need graphic design probably also need help with SEO. So being able to offer something that is not just your specific niche is going to give great value to a customer.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I see it. Web design, graphic design, social media, email marketing, pay-per-click, all of these things go hand in hand. If you want one, you're going to have a need for the other at some point in the near future. And I think, from a Penji perspective, it'd be crazy just to talk about graphic design all of the time. The same way I've had every SEO person on the planet on my podcast, and I'm just like, I can't be bothered talking about SEO anymore. There is more to life than SEO. The business side of things, or financial side of things, or the graphics, social media, YouTube, all of that kind of stuff. Video in itself is big from any business point of view. I think any business out there has to do more video content. It's, you've got TikTok, you've got, Reels. And it doesn't matter whether you're a plumber or whether you're a graphic designer. I think video content is really, really important as well. And all of that is, you've just got to embrace it and deal with it. And, as I say, get to that broader audience.
Yeah, definitely. I think video content nowadays is really, really big. I wonder what the next sort of popular thing is gonna be, because, we had like photos were like a thing for a while where it was just like all about pictures, and then we had like, I think we had like blog posts back in the day where people would just like recommend things through blogs, and
Yeah.
now it's like all about TikToks and short form. Even if you're not on TikTok, you're gonna have to post an Instagram reel or a YouTube short or whatever it is. So I sometimes wonder like what that next big thing is. And, I think at Penji we're always trying to be prepared for that because social media changes so much.
Yeah.
What do you do to sort of stay on top of all of those changes, and how like algorithms and all of these things that I think are always just moving really, really fast.
I mean, the only real way you can do it is by trying and testing different things. And the likes of TikTok is a perfect example. I can throw a video on TikTok and it could get 1,000 views, throw another one up that's very similar and it gets 1,000,000 views. And you're like, well, how did that work? How do I manipulate this? How do I do it better? And unless you do stuff and test and try different things, you'll never really know the kind of answer to exactly what is working without, trying and testing things. So I'm always one of those guys that try and test things, and people will tell you, you know, engagement is obviously for YouTube, for TikTok and whatever, that initial engagement is going to get you more engagement because it's shown to a wider audience, the more popular it seems. Uh, so what can you do to kind of manipulate that stuff? And that's down to me to one, try and test, but there's people out there telling you what to do. The information is actually out there. There's TikTok specific experts telling you that, TikTok now prefer short form content or whatever it may be. We know statistically that people's attention spans are not what they used to be. So again, short form content, because don't take 4 minutes to say what you could have said in 30 seconds, because no one fucking wants to watch you for 4 minutes. Let's be honest. And that is essentially all of that information is out there, and you've just got to read in the right places, network with people, talk to industry peers. I go to a lot of conferences and speak, but I do network with a lot of people, and I'll take time out. If I'm not so hot on a specific topic, I'll go and find a guy or girl who is a TikTok superstar who knows the ins and outs of it, and I'll try and network with them and schmooze them to get what I can from them. And I think you always have to be learning, always have to be up to speed, always have to be testing if you want to stay somewhat,
Yeah.
ahead of the curve, because you have to be, like you say, things develop, things change every other month, really, if not more frequently.
Yeah, they change all the time. It's hard to keep up. Sometimes it's like, when did this become a thing? I mean, even as just like a normal social media user, like for your own personal socials, I think sometimes I'm like blindsided by like, oh, this is a new feature. I had no idea. Like
Yeah.
the other day, I saw my friend post it on Instagram, but it was like a close friends post. And I was
Mm,
like, I didn't know you could do that. I knew you had close friends Instagram stories, but I didn't know you had close friend posts now.
yeah.
Like, and I was just like, "Oh, apparently it's this new thing that they added," and I had no clue that they did. Um, and like you said, you kinda just have to, like, constantly be on top of it, especially if you're doing it for business, right? Because if it's for fun, it's fine, but, if you're, like, using this, you're trying to grow something, you need to sort of constantly be on the lookout for it so that it makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Craig, it's been great having you today and very interesting talking to you. I think influencers like yourself who are very big always have very interesting journeys about how they got there. A lot of our viewers are trying to grow their own socials. So I think that is going to help a lot of people watching and reading this. Before we leave, I want to give you the space to talk about any interesting projects that you're doing and tell us where we can find you if anybody wants to learn about marketing, SEO, business. Floor is yours.
So you can find me on craigcampbellseo.com or on social media. I think I put more information out on YouTube and social media than I do on the website now. But I have a new podcast coming where I'm going to have a much wider scope, or a much wider range of topics to be discussing with some amazing guests. So that is obviously what I'm trying to work on just now. And as I say, I've got a couple of big hitters coming up in the next few weeks over on the you'll see it on my YouTube channel. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can really promote. I don't have a lot to sell, but I certainly get a lot of good information on the YouTube channel for people who want to learn more about all things digital marketing, loads of tutorials, different tools you can use, even mistakes that I've made. I've even documented those. So I think sometimes highlighting not just successes, but some of the failures along the way and why I failed is also useful for other people. So there's a lot of good stuff on there, hopefully.
Awesome. Yeah, I will be adding your links to the description and everything so that people can go in and check you out. And I think if there's anything that they want to see, they can find it there. It was great having you on the show today, Craig. Thank you so much for being here.
No worries. Been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as well. Everybody have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.